What's your business?
My name is my job description. My name is my job description. My name is my job description. My name is my job description.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Full Force News Burst, brought to you by GeneralsJoes.com, with me as your host, Chris Slime Your Business McLeod, aka Diagnosticati. On this instalment of your absolutely favourite kind of burst, we have a man who has so many names, AKAs and monikers that it's hard to keep up. The one and only Wordburglar is joining me to discuss his awesome brand new album, Rhyme Your Business. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this news burst. On this raptastic episode, I am joined by a Canadian rapping, comic book reading, cartoon watching, toy fiddling G.I. Joe fan extraordinaire who has just dropped his latest album, Rhyme Your Business, and is currently in the middle of a rap tour of Canada to boot. He is the talented and extremely busy Wordburglar. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. How are you doing, my good man?
Yo, Joe, I'm doing awesome. Thank you for having me back. You know, I love your podcast. I love everything you guys are doing over here. So it's always a pleasure to check in. Yeah.
Well, loving what you're doing. Let's get stuck into this album. I mean, first, it's unbelievably good. I mean, was it everything you hoped it would be when you decided to start putting it together? Seriously, it's great.
Thank you. I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy. It still seems very young. I mean, I've been living with it for over a year, really. But now just getting it out into the world, it's just really been out, barely 2 months now. So it still feels very fresh, and it's growing. I'm super proud of it. It actually turned out better than I thought it would. So
awesome.
I'm pretty happy. Yeah.
So you said over a year ago. When did the actual process begin, and on this project?
Well, I guess it's been on my mind for probably about 2 years or so, because Replicable Skills, which was the last record, that dropped in towards the end of 2015.
Yeah.
But then I spent a lot of time touring with that, working on videos, doing promotions, so I couldn't really get around to starting work on the new record until that album had sort of had its time to live out in the world. And there are actually a couple songs on Rhyme Your Business that started during the process of Replicable Skills, and then they just weren't quite ready, or I hadn't quite figured out how to approach them. So, and that often is the case. Like, there was same with this record, there were a lot of songs I was working on that just didn't quite get where I wanted them to get to, and so hopefully they will live to see the light of day on a later album. But yeah, I mean, I usually say every record takes me roughly about 2 years, just from ideas. And if every song takes about a month to sort of write and work on and get the beats together and everything, and then you've got your recording and mixing and mastering, and there's a lot that goes into it. So I really do spend countless hours on making these little records. I know you can listen to it in under an hour, but it takes so much longer.
No, I know how you feel on that.
You know how it is.
Oh, totally. But I mean, okay, coming back, how hands-on are you then with all of the different elements of it? Because is it kind of like one of those things where you're an all-rounder? You write everything, you record. Obviously you obviously have to record with a producer in the room, I imagine. But how hands-on are you with all the aspects of those different elements of the making of it?
I'm hands-on with everything. When it comes to recording, I do record at a studio so I can get like proper recording. So I record at the Kill Zone with my buddy Fresh Kills, or at Fun Studios with my buddy Timbuktu, who are both producers in their own right.
Yeah. And
I've been working with them for over a decade. So they always give me really great quality production and recording. But from the beats to the writing to concepts to artwork to assembling the guests and finding the samples that I want to use in the beats, to the samples that I want to have cut up by the DJ, just like the vocal scratches. I'm everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm the executive producer. So every record really is me just sort of handpicking my special team for the mission. And
It's like a Mask episode, isn't
exactly.
it?
It's exactly it, right? It's like, I totally approach it the same way, I'd be playing with my GI Joes back in the day. It's like just assembling the right team for whatever I need. Okay, this track is going to be sort of a video game track.
Yeah.
What producer do I want to work with to make the right beat for this, and what other rapper do I want to work with, et cetera, et cetera. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what did you have any kind of like big plan in place before doing this? I mean, was this one of those things that you'd been you said you'd been thinking about it for a while? Were you putting together almost like a structure for how you wanted it to be? Because I mean, when I make music or do anything kind of project based, I always have like almost this roadmap that I want to kind of follow that it never really ends up looking like. But I just wondered how that kind of process is for you.
Yeah, I guess with this one, I really wanted to make the best versions of a lot of songs and themes that I've already sort of tackled.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always coming back to a lot of the same themes because that's who I am. And
you're a nerd. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a nerd, so there's going to be nerdy stuff in there. I'm a lover of hip hop. I love fun. Like all these concepts are going to keep sort of permeating through everything I do. And I guess with this, I really just wanted to use everything that I've learned already coming up and just kind of make the best versions of these songs. Like I want to make, what's sort of like the most humorous rap song I can make to myself? What's the nerdiest rap song I can make? What is sort of, and then again, just sort of like, I'm fascinated with the human condition and storytelling. And so I really wanted to cover stuff like that. And I think maybe more than my other records, this one really touches into a lot of nostalgic points from whether it is barter
VHS
nostalgia.
Tapes.
Yeah, the VHS tapes, the comic books, digging for old records, and then just, the concept of nostalgia and why that propels us and why it's a good thing. And I guess it was a lot of stuff I wanted to get off my chest. And also just really, like all my records, I want to just talk about stuff I love. And that's really where the title came from as well. Rhyme Your Business. It's just tell it like it is, which is what I've always tried to do. And that's kind of where the title track came from, where, with social media and everything, I see so many artists posting, I'm working so hard trying to make it. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. It's like, don't talk about it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to do it. Nobody deserves it.
Yeah.
Like you're not entitled to it any more than the next person. So you just have to work if you want something. And it's such a simple thing and you just have to do it. And I don't like to complain. I like to just try and focus the energy in a positive way.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to make a record that was fun. And I know I'm sort of all over the place with this answer, but
not
it is.
Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, the core of it is, the reality of the world right now, not to dwell on anything, too dreary. But the world there's a lot of really frustrating, annoying things going on all around us every day. And I wanted to take a step away from that and say, look, there's still a lot of great things going on. There's still a lot of things you can laugh about and be positive about and have fun with. And I just really wanted to give people something to smile about and nod their heads to. And maybe just, I think, having fun and laugh, being able to laugh at stuff, it really is more important than ever. And I don't ever really like to get too political. So I just kind of use my voice to try and to give people a little smile. And if I can give them a little pickup during the day, that's worth it to me.
Well, successful on this side, I must admit. I was smiling all the way through it. A couple of things I'm just going to point out here that if you haven't listened to the album yet, there's a lot of, like you say, a lot of inspiration in there from, kind of like that kind of, you can tell your love of hip hop, your love of nostalgia and all that kind of stuff. Now, the things that stood out to me were things like, the vocal cuts in the chorus, in some of the choruses, very reminiscent of like DJ Premier style. Kind of stuff, so it's almost like a callback to his thing. But I mean, that's been kind of going on for ages now. That almost that use of using the cut up samples to kind of create something. It's something I do on our show every now and again as well. something I really love as well too. But also you've mixed that up with some really infectious hooks, some that we'll probably come onto a little bit later on in the interview, but really how satisfying is it when you create a hook that some of the ones that we'll be listening to later on?
Oh, it's the best feeling. And again, I'm constantly listening to hip hop and rap samples. So, if I'm listening to something and I hear a line, I'm like, oh, that'll work perfectly for this concept. Yeah. And I kind of have a weird memory for lyrics. So when I'm working on a song, I can usually think, oh, I think there's this great sample we could use from this track from, Nine or some like obscure rapper from the 90s. I think there's a song where he said this, and I think it sort of sums up what I'm trying to say here. Wow. And that's such a big thing. I mean, mentioning DJ Premier, that's a huge obviously a huge influence on me, so I'll take that as a huge compliment.
It's a huge compliment.
Yeah, well, thank you. But that's such a great element to hip hop where you can use the scratches to help really sort of hammer home a point or something. Anyone who loves rap, I think, can appreciate a great DJ scratch. And it's important to me to have a DJ on as many tracks as possible. So I always try to bring DJs on for at least half the record, and usually more than half the record is you'll hear some cuts on my tracks.
I suppose that adds to the nostalgia element as well. Obviously, DJs being so synonymous with hip hop from day one.
Oh yeah, that's and when I hear rap albums now that don't have any scratching at all, I'm like, what are you? Like, you're totally missing out on a major element that will just really bring your song up, right? It's like you're not going to listen to a whole rock album without drums or something.
The riff, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the riff, yeah.
Amazing. How did you go about picking the producers and guest spots for this one?
A lot of the same people that I've been working with and trust working with and have fun working with. I mean, that's a major element to me, like working with people who get what I'm trying to do, because what I'm trying to do isn't always everyone's cup of tea. Imagine that. I just love, it's a great excuse to call up my friends and say, hey, we haven't seen each other in like a year or two. Let's work on a track together. What are you doing? And I'm lucky that a lot of the people that I've been working with for a long time are still working hard on their music. So everyone has sort of been coming up together. So whether it's Beat Mason or Fresh Kills or Timbuktu or any of these guys, like Megaran, like a lot of artists I've just known a really long time, and seeing them all come into their own now. Yeah. And then we kind of just keep reconnecting every 6 months or so, and just saying, hey, all right, what are you guys working on? You're busy, and maybe we can find the time. So for some of the guests, like the rappers like Esoteric, I've been a huge fan of for years. So that was a huge deal to me to be able to get Esoteric on the album. Same thing with Bird of Prey, who some people may not know if you're not from Canada, but in terms of like underground Canadian rap, like Bird of Prey's, he's a legend here. So having him on the record was huge for me. And basically I got both of those guys on the album by talking to them just about the song concepts, and they were into, like, Bird of Prey's a huge record collector, so used Create a Mind.
Nice.
That was just like, I kind of tailored. I was like, I know this could be a concept that he could get down on.
Copping KMD 12s, gas face refill, mom and pop shops in the community retail. Seems unimportant, the money I spent at the spot where James Brown was 25 cents. But I asked myself, is it all an excuse to convince a consumer they really produce? The chase was on when I wanted a song. Now records come off just like comics or pods.
And then Esoteric, who's in Czarface, and he's like a huge comic book fan. Yeah. And him and Inspector Deck are doing all these crazy, like, concept comic book inspired songs with Czarface. And, I'm a bit of a comic book nerd myself, so.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
So I pitched him the concept for Damage Control, and he was all over it.
Fantastic. Reading through, split the street in two. Defeating humans, find an evil do. Tell them we the cleanup crew. Damage Control, it's grim. I seen a thing or two. It's clobbering time. We're stopping crimes. Gets broken like the hobgoblin's mind when the weapons go blam blam. We deal with it all, big or small like Ant-Man. If Jean Way gets carried away, it's safe to say she's gonna pay the bill. Worth the pay to raise.
And I think that when you can bring artists on to your project where you guys really connect on a level like that, it just makes the songs that much stronger. And I've done collabs that didn't turn out well, and I haven't released them. So sure. These are ones that I thought turned out amazingly. So that's why they're out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's cut the shit now. There are so many Joe references throughout this album. Not even just on the
G.I. Joe podcast.
but not even exactly. Not even just on the two clear Joe only tracks, but they're littered throughout. I mean, I picked up as I was listening to it before we recorded, but like Thrasher and the Thunder Machine, Nemesis Enforcer slashing a Havoc. I mean, they're pretty close. I think they're in the same verse almost, but
Yeah.
Stay underground, even in a nat-at's attic. Rap Thunder Machine, Thrasher, crashing your traffic. Nemesis Enforcer, slashing the havoc. And even if you didn't catch it, trust me, that's sick.
I mean, I was just like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I think that's on Versatility as well, that track. And then obviously, the MacGuffin device.
Let's get going. Got a style rarer than a left-handed snake, and my pencil got potential like a fresh can of paint. Get it straight, the paper stock is heavyweight. Right so fly, I'll make a page levitate. Savannah to Santa Fe, Indiana to Tampa Bay, demanding they play all the way from Canada, A. I can't stand a fake RoboCop 3, insulting the original, no prop from me.
And then the Wrong Ralph Pulaski.
Dog tag say. I was done, resigned, ready to punch the clock. One last mission, then I was out like sun on the block. My team told me to stop complaining. Yeah, they had better luck telling the sky to stop raining.
I mean, how important is it that you include these references? I mean, Joe's a big thing for you, isn't it?
Oh, well, yeah. And I mean, to anyone listening, I know like many of my Joe pals tune into the podcast as well. So what's up, everybody? But yeah, I mean, I'm a lifelong Joe fan. I did do a whole rap album about it one time.
I can't remember. Don't remember that one at all. I only played that for like about 3 years non-stop.
Well, yeah, Joe it's been my life for forever, and Joe's been such a big part of my life. And as long as I've been recording music, I've been having songs with G.I. Joe references in them. And so even if it is just for me and 3 friends, so if you pick up on the Thrasher line or, Nemesis Enforcer slashing a Havoc, I mean, to me, to people who know that line, like who know what I'm talking about, I'm of course referencing when Nemesis Enforcer slashes through the Havoc in
pulls
G.I.
snow
Joe.
job out of it and throws
Yeah. Like that's such a crazy scene. Like no matter how many times I've seen that movie, which are a lot, when Nemesis Enforcer like crawls under the Havoc and rips out Snow Job, like that's crazy. I don't care who you are, you can't argue how awesome that is.
Totally bad. Yeah.
Especially being like a 7-year-old seeing that, like what? But yeah, Joe, I mean, yeah, it's always going to come up, and to me, it's just fun to always rap about G.I. Joe, and there's always going to be obscure G.I. Joe references in everything I do. MacGuffin Device, of course, is a hilarious episode of the cartoon. I think a lot of Joe fans probably know that one.
Yeah.
But I always like that concept as well, that you never find out what a MacGuffin device is. I mean, obviously it's used in literature, it's used in all these different things, but I always knew it from the G.I. Joe episode. But then throughout life, it would come up and you hear about, Alfred Hitchcock used a MacGuffin device, or so-and-so used a MacGuffin device. And then, so I kind of like that it's an indescribable thing that everybody wants, but no one knows exactly what it is. And I thought that kind of summed up my style. And then, of course, Ralph Pulaski, I mean, that's Worlds Without End is one of the most chilling pieces of fiction I've ever seen. And especially, again, back to being a kid watching that cartoon, getting up at 6 a.m, watching it right after the broadcast signal and the start of this day. And I'd get up early in the morning on a dark, Tuesday morning and seeing Worlds Without End come on. And I will never forget Ralph Pulaski seeing his own skeleton. It was just terrifying. And
there's a couple of scenes in that cartoon where he's running into the distance, and it looks like they've taken it out of Scooby-Doo. Like how his arms and legs are just literally all over the place, like running off down the road or whatever. It's hilarious.
Well, yeah, that's because he was bit by the poison bug.
Yeah.
Right? And he's
the Scooby-Doo bug, yeah.
So chilling. And that song especially. So, I mean, I can talk about it here, but I have a concept that I've been sort of working on, which is basically like a fan fiction sequel to Worlds Without End. And so Pope Apocalypse is basically That's why it's called Wrong Ralph Pulaski, Cobra Apocalypse Part 1.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to the story. And if you listen to the song, verse 1 is basically, ties into Worlds Without End.
Yeah.
Verse 2 is taking it into another direction. So my theory for it's basically what happens after we leave Steeler.
Yeah.
Because he's still over there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I have a whole story written and just figuring out the best way to get that out. If IDW will return my calls, we can talk.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
But I think one way or another, I'm gonna get that out there. So in some shape or form.
That's great.
But yeah, so that was just sort of a teaser, and people have been asking about a sequel to Cobra Island, and there's nothing immediately planned for like a full album.
Yeah.
But definitely there's gonna be some more chapters to Cobra Apocalypse, and I've got a few other ideas. So we'll see. I mean, I'm pretty busy, but I'm glad people like Welcome to Cobra Island. And if I'm going to do a full sequel to that album, it's got to be really good.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to put out anything else out that wasn't up to par. So
awesome.
Really, really long response. Again.
No, honestly, this is great. This is gold. And also, I've got about 70 G.I. Joe beats, so you could have could have the album done in a week. I'm just saying.
Actually, when we turn the mics off, I want to talk to you about another thing too.
Okay, I'll cut all of that out. Okay, one of the biggest standouts on the album for me is the track Input Blitz.
Optimize the input channel. Use a shoe for a hammer and a dime as a screwdriver to compose what you see, like a viewfinder. The new MacGyvers cross a bridge when we get there, and if not, make our own like the bridge layer.
Holy that is amazing. I love that song so much.
Oh, man, thank you. I'm glad you.
Honestly, that is like. I love the album. It's been on constant rotation pretty much since it was released, and thank goodness it was on Spotify. Because
I'm flattered because you're super talented too, man, with the beats.
Oh, you don't have to
so
say that.
I appreciate that. It's true. You know that. Anyone who listens to this knows when you throw on the beats, they're crazy. So
not only am I leaving that in, I'm also doubling it up so you say it twice.
Hey, it's true, man. It's true. It didn't rhyme, but it's still real.
Well, anyway, I appreciate that very much. But like that track Input Blitz is just. It's just amazing. Like, I love it. Combining your love of gaming and rap here, which isn't the first time you've done this, of course. I mean, take us through this track if you could. I mean, from the sample to everything. Just, it's beautiful. Okay,
well, I don't want to share what the sample is because the code of hip hop is you're never supposed to share where the samples come from. But I think people listening to it know that it does have an origin in the video game world, and it is an interpolation of a video game that actually may be a little closer to the hearts of our listeners than they may think. So that's all the clue I'm going to give on that. But in terms of the concept of the song, basically for anyone who's ever played Final Fantasy 6 or 3, but as it came out in North America, but 6 is what it's been known as now in canon.
Yeah.
I told you, I'm nerdy.
Nerd.
But Final Fantasy 6 was I loved that game, and I still play it. I go back and play it every couple of years.
Did we had this conversation at JoeCon, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I'm sure the two of us and Paul was with us, Paul Pamphilo, and I'm sure we had this conversation about Final Fantasy. Go on.
Shout out Paul. He's doing the postcards right now, which
so
are amazing. Plastic Battles. Everyone check those out. The Joe, I love our Joe community. It's the best.
It's
best people. But I digress. Input Blitz is basically a reference to the character Sabin in that video game, who it was the first time I had ever encountered playing like a role-playing game like Final Fantasy where you had to input other type of commands. Like basically you're playing a role-playing game, which is pretty straightforward, like a battle command system.
Yeah.
But then you have to do like Street Fighter 2 type moves for this character.
Yeah.
So basically that in itself was sort of flipping the game on its head, where he could just fight and do everything like all the other characters. Or if you did the Street Fighter moves, he could do these crazy power attacks, which to me was always fascinating. And I like that as a metaphor for what I'm doing when I rap. It's basically if I don't like the way things are going to go, I'm just going to flip it on its head. I'm just going to input a blitz and do something else and change it up. So it's sort of simple, but I think it means, it means a lot to me. And it's obviously Mega Ran raps on that track as well. And he's, Capcom's official rapper. So he's
so cool.
He's a serious video game head in his own right.
We destroy, punish, make something out of rubbish. Chop down trees and eat the roughage. We bring the ruckus, make a move and make it something. Like quick time events, oops, hit the wrong button. But now we starting over with a new lease on life. I go left when the camera leads y'all right. Yeah, they told me think outside of the boxes, so I ripped everyone just to get to the cartridge.
And again, so I pitched him that concept, and he was totally down. And,
I'm not surprised.
And yeah, Mr. E, I'm not surprised you like that beat, because Mr. E is a guy that I worked on that song with, and he worked with me on the beat. I enlisted him for a little song called Rap Viper.
Oh, there you go.
Rap Viper, superbly trained to drop dimes on your mind as I'm scanning your brain. Cobra for life. My parents met at the Terradrome, Rocker Beach Boardwalk. There's my home. Dad worked at Arco. Mom was a televiper with flying rattlers when you could still smell my diapers. Lyrical sniper delivered without obstacle by Dr. Venom at Cobra Island Hospital.
Same, so we combined again for that. So, and he did Versatility as well, which has a couple of G.I. Joe references on it. So shout out Mr. E.
I'm going to be, big shout out. I'm also going to be playing a lot of this music as we talk through it.
Nice.
Okay, so you recently did a video for Rental Patient, which was really, really awesome.
Are your kids renting a movie this weekend? Saturday afternoon matinees aren't what they used to be. To begin with, kids don't have to go to the movie theater. They can bring the movie home from a rental store.
What you know about going out to catch a movie at your own house? Waiting in line to watch something on your own couch, no doubt. You had to get up and get it, or ask an adult if your pick was restricted. Get this, I know it's hard to believe it, but if a movie was rented, you just couldn't see it.
Kids nowadays will never know the pain of renting VHS tapes, and that is something I'm happy to have gone through. But how much fun was filming that, and do you miss the old days of VHS at all, or are you happy we have the ability to watch what we want when we want now?
Well, Christopher, you and I think we're lucky that we had those experiences where we did grow up in a time where we were denied stuff, like going to a video store and them not having the movie you wanted. Exactly. So you were forced to get something else. Like, I think there's a lot, and I've said this before, but there's a lot of value in being denied something. So whether you don't let your kids watch TV, or you don't, you can't rent the movie you want to see, like it forces you to appreciate other things, and then appreciate the things you have, appreciate things in the moment, I guess, more than things being so fleeting, where you can just flip through Netflix or whatever service and, oh, you don't like this movie? Oh, no problem. I'm just going to find another movie.
Yeah.
If you rented a movie back in the day, I say it in the song, that's what you were stuck with. It better be something good.
You were stuck with, but only for a short period of time.
Yeah. But I mean, I'd have to walk to some place and in the cold and come back home and watch it. And then if it sucked, I'd just sit there for 2 hours. Like, obviously, these are just dumb little insignificant moments, but they do add up. And I'm thankful that we lived through that time to appreciate it. And I'm sure kids today are going to grow up appreciating things in their own ways. But this is just another thing, like with the human condition now, and I think with music and everything, and how fleeting things can become, and how simple it is to hear any album you want by just going on YouTube and just, whatever, or going on Spotify. And you can find all these records if you know where to look. Whereas back in the day, if you'd go to your friend's house and they had a record collection, and you could dig through and you'd discover music that way. I mean, there's different paths to discovery now. And again, this is I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but this is so. Do I miss it? I kind of do. I like the thrill of the hunt.
Yes.
And I'm still very much like that in everything, but I do notice there seems to be less appreciation for films and comic books or albums or anything, because there is just so much out there, and I worry about things being disposable when they start to lose their value. And when there's so much out there, there doesn't seem to be a lot of value. And yeah, so I do get nostalgic for that era of stuff, which I think, most of us who are 30 plus who are probably kind of in the same boat. But yeah.
And how was Rental Patient to film?
Oh, it was awesome. It was super fun. It was a real trip. We shot at Eyesore Cinema, which is a great video store here in Toronto. Yeah, the director is Nathan Boone. He was fully on board with the concept, and I think it turned out great.
I've really enjoyed a lot of your videos recently. I love that. Forget the French title of the.
Oh, Je ne care pas.
Yes.
Je ne care pas.
Je veux ce plat. Je veux ce plat. Je veux ce plat.
That's an MC being me. Je ne care pas.
Je veux ce plat. Je veux ce plat.
That's an MC being me. Even if it doesn't, je ne care pas.
I don't care.
Franglais. It's franglais.
That video is really nice as well. Like I like the kind of the techniques employed, if you know what I mean. Like the kind of the visuals are really cool as well. Yeah, really, really down with that one.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I had a camera attached to myself the whole time. It was sort of sticking out of my chest. Yeah.
How long are you doing these shoots for?
Hours. I mean, yeah, again, it's like a 3-minute video, but Rental Patient, I think we shot probably a total of maybe 20 hours.
Wow.
And Je ne care pas was maybe just under that. So yeah, and then we edited it all down. The editing process is definitely, intensive on all my videos, but I got to get all the best takes. I can't use the one when I've got spinach in my teeth, or I'm not on my best looking good. That'd
have been good for Rental Patient. That'd have made you look like a mental patient. Okay, that's awesome, man. Okay, look, coming back to Used Creative Mind, really nice play on words. It talks about your vinyl collecting disorder. Was making this track like therapy for that aspect of your life a little bit?
Yeah, this podcast is therapy.
I should wear like a jacket and be like, so tell me about your childhood. Yeah,
you could just be like, Bergie, shut up, man. You're right.
I would say, tell me about your childhood, but I think I know everything about it after listening to like 2 albums,
Yeah, I know, I'm gonna have to find another childhood to rap about.
Oh, dude.
What was the question again?
Oh, just
Use Creative Mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, similar to digging for action figures or digging for comic books or anything. Use Creative Mind is like the similarities between the hobbies there's so many.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, and it is. I love digging for records, and it can be overwhelming because you're looking through a bin of thousands of records and you can't listen to them all, so the temptation to just take as many home as possible is always there. And good thing they're so heavy, because otherwise I'd be lugging tons home. But maybe that's why the kids like the MP3s these days.
Yeah, because they're lighter.
Yeah.
I also love how disjointed the Mike Heckler beat is, and how it kind of really hits hard when that snappy snare comes in.
Must have studied Curtis Blow, Ziz knows, you're old school. I'm talking kind of like Audio 2, dude. If the 2 stood for doo-doo, how do I unsubscribe from knowing you are alive? You're the funky 4+1 -5 guy. You're T.I.R.E.D. Don't walk this way, run away from me, DMC. Ice Cube, a Gooding Jr., a bad actor. No chance at all, the rapper. When it comes to bars, you lowered the bar, son. You remind me of Exhibit, a failed art one.
It's such an original sounding track that it kind of takes you by surprise a little. Was that kind of like intended on your part? Were you trying to be like experimental a little bit with that track?
Yeah, that's obviously a concept that I wanted to do that concept for a long time, like just making funny versions of a lot of my favorite rappers' names, and then just sort of coming up with a good way to get that across.
Yeah.
And I needed just the right beat, because Mike Heckler is basically me taking on a bit of a character, which I like to do sometimes. And that beat that Fresh Kills made with Uncle Fess was on that too. Again, 2 collaborators that I've worked with for really since I started making music, like 15 years ago almost.
Yeah.
That beat, like Kills had like, it was in a slightly different version, and he was like, listen, I think this is the beat for you. And I was like, yeah, this
Nice.
this is it. And then him and I sort of sat around and worked on it and added in all those like the laughs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, like, I just sat next to him because he's a true genius at the boards, and we just had a lot of fun just injecting the laughs and stuff after I'd done the vocals.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, so I'm really proud of how that track turned out, actually, and the beat is I'm glad you noticed that. It's a weird kind of wonky, almost offbeat kind of beat.
Yeah.
And but it really does hit really hard, and definitely with the delivery of the vocals, which are in your face.
Yeah.
I think they complement each other really well, which is one of the things I'm always trying to do, just find the right beat for the concept of the song.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. Living Between Wednesdays is a great track that highlights your love of comics, and I imagine the experiences you had whilst working in a store as well.
Yes, excuse me. Do you have any issues with covers where floating heads are shocked? Yes, I love the promise of surprise revelations. And what about glow-in-the-dark die-cut embossed holographic lenticular chromium variations? Is it movement enhanced?
It's days like this that make it worth waiting 6 to dip into the pages deeper than Project Pegasus. Some say it's hump day, others are oblivious, but for the brave and the bold, we're always living it.
I mean, how much fun was that to write?
Oh, it was the best. That actually started as my friends Dave and Rochelle have a podcast called Living Between Wednesdays, and they started doing it as a blog years ago. And they were asking me, they were using another song of mine for their intro, and then they were saying, well, would you be able to do an original track for us? So I said, yeah, I'd love to do a little something. So I started working on something, and basically if the podcast, it's just sort of a shorter, slightly different version of the track. But I had so much fun working on it that I just expanded it and took it from like a 30-second podcast intro and wrote like basically a 4-minute song off the concept. Because, yeah, I mean, anyone who reads comics knows Wednesday is the big day when the new comics come out.
NCBD.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
So I had a lot of fun just writing about comics and sort of my experience, and different than other songs I've done about comics before. This is really more about really that wait between Wednesdays and why is it a big deal? Why do you care what the next comic is? Why, what are we looking for? So again, touching along the nostalgia vibe, like I really wanted to get a little bit deeper. I mean, it's still fun and lighthearted.
Yeah,
but,
I feel like there's a little bit of fun poked at maybe some people you've had to deal with in comic book stores over the years.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've worked at 2 different comic shops, and while they were like my best, like some of my most favorite times of my life were selling comic books. As I'm sure you know, that you definitely get a lot of characters. You get a lot of special characters coming through there that can test your patience.
Yeah.
So I always tried to handle them with a sense of humor, which usually just flew right over their heads.
Of course, yeah. 100%.
But yeah, you gotta laugh. You gotta look at it and laugh.
And I'm sure you did.
Oh yeah.
There are so many great tracks on this album, but do you have any favorites on there that really stand out as fun to perform?
In terms of performing live, the song Where the Word's At is a lot of fun.
Where the words at? They're right here on the mic. Where the words at? They're right here on the mic. Where the words at? They're right here on the mic. I pick them up every day and put them down every night. Where the words at? They're right here on the mic. Where the words at? They're right here on the mic. Where the words at? They're right here on the mic. I pick them up every day and put them down every night.
And I love the beat. I kind of dance around a lot. I'm not the best dancer, but I like to dance. And that's a beat that Coins made, aka Peter Project. If you don't know Coins, everyone should go look up the Coins Daft Science album, where he mashed up the Beastie Boys and Daft Punk. Nice. And it's amazing. Yeah, it kind of broke the internet a couple years ago, and like every major music blog picked up on it. And so yeah, just search Coins Daft Science. It's really, really good. So he made that beat. Him and I have been friends since we were kids, like played baseball together.
Wow.
And and he's an incredibly talented musician in his own right. He does the music for Winona Earp, which is a TV show. Yeah, in case you get that over there across the pond, and among many other things. But he's so when he's not doing TV scores, he hooks me up with fat rap beats. So that's a good one to do. He also did Channel Halifax, which I did a video for.
It's a beautiful day. Just gonna jaywalk across Spring Garden. Yeah. I grew up by the library, next to Winston Churchill, eating pizza every day like some Ninja Turtles. The kid who burgles from St. Pat's to Gus's Pub at the Public Gardens, feeding ducks Bud the Spud. What's up, cuz? A Grace baby in the place, y'all. And like Glace Bay, he loves baseball. From the Commons to the Wanderers' grounds, and you know I feel weird when no water's around.
Off the last record.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but yeah, that's a fun one to do live. And I really like Barter Nostalgia.
You love something, let it go. That's theoretic, though. Doesn't apply to what you want to remember, so you never know where all your memories go till they're resurrected by old friends at a show or old tracks on the radio. And when they hit like a ton of bricks, how could we ever forget? Flying through space, we shared a time and place. And when it hits my mind, I'm glad to find your face. Hey, it's hard for things to remain the same. Like when your roommate erased your saved game, or eat your last mac and cheese when that was all you had to eat. I ain't mad, I laugh and look back in peace. What happened to these peeps you used to see? They'll say they knew the you used to be, but truthfully, that person never went away. Been right here, you just gotta press play.
I was really proud of how that turned out, and I think it was sort of a great closer for the record.
I was going to say it's on the it's like the last track, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I find it always a challenge to find a really good song to end the album with, and that's usually the song I spend the most time on.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, like just trying to find the best way to cap off the whole experience, because I'm an album guy. I like listening to a full album, and so I hope if somebody checks out one of my albums, they listen all the way through. And on every album I've made, I've tried to make the last song a great summation of the whole record in one way or the other. So yeah, that's those two, I mean, they're all my babies. I love them all.
Okay, the title track, I mean, that is infectious. I love that.
Don't go on and how you're trying to get it. Just put your mind on the grind and rhyme your business. Most clients aren't the kind that risk it, so tell it like it is. Rhyme your business. Don't go on and how you're trying to get it. Just put your mind on the grind and rhyme your business. Most clients aren't the kind that risk it, so tell it like it is. Rhyme your business.
Uses like good use of sampling in there. I'm not going to ask you what it is for obvious reasons. And again, like it's one that really lends itself well to your flow, especially. I mean, how good did you feel after writing that hook? Because that is so on point to that track.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, I just sort of rode the beat and was just sort of humming along to it, and it really did kind of write itself. And yeah, I love doing it. And I think I knew it worked when I was recording it, and then I walked out of the booth, and the engineer who was recording it was sort of humming the hook.
Oh, brilliant!
And he was like saying it, and I'm like, okay, cool. I think I got a catchy hook. So
it's just one of those things, isn't it? I think when you get that kind of like, I don't know, when you ride that rhythm, I suppose, and it kind of comes out of you naturally. It's like, yeah, this is what it's got to be. That it just lines up beautifully, and I think that's what it does on that particular track. And also, I'd also like to talk about "Make Fun Not Bore" as well, as that's a track you're currently aiming to film a video for. Correct? You entered a pitch on the Story Hive website, I believe. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I met a great creative team actually in Western Canada. And they were talking to me about doing a video, and "Make Fun Not Bore" was definitely a song I envisioned as a video when I was recording it. And so I talked with them about it, and yeah, we've entered this pitch online. I'm not sure how that's going to go. I mean, if it doesn't work out one way or another, we're going to do our best to make a video happen. Yeah. And there's a couple other songs I want to do videos for, but yeah, it's I mean, that's a message that I think really is sort of prevalent throughout the album and all my records. I don't want to waste people's time. I don't want to make stuff that's going to be boring. I want to make stuff that's fun.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's a good rule to live by.
Something's afoot, and it's not the thing on my leg. So let me mix into this beat like an omelet egg to honestly say what kind of guy I am. Just trying to focus, like having ADD at an eye exam. Smile, fam, got your cameras on flicker, rapping more words than an Amazon shipper with a handle on stuff that sticks like a tape gun. Mad, crazy, stupid, but never play dumb.
Make fun, not bore.
I'll be playing the music as well in the background perfectly. And before we go as well today, dude, how's the tour going? And you've got more dates coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got dates lined up right until Christmas. Really, it's been amazing. My goal was when this record launched. I was kind of crazy. I bit off a lot. I launched the record, a video, and a tour within like a week of each other. And I'm independent. I'm just doing it on my own here, and so it's been keeping a lot of plates spinning. But it's been fantastic. Like the last 2 months have been amazing. I've just met hundreds of amazing people across Canada. And just the shows have been fantastic. Like I say, the people have been cool. The reception's been great. And just getting the music out and finding new ways for people to hear it, because, we talk about it a lot, but like the algorithms on Facebook, it's hard for people to see anything. I've got people asking me, hey, you haven't put out anything new in a while? I'm like, what? I just put out a new album. I just put out a new video. Like people ask me that all the time. And they're like, oh, well, I follow you on Facebook, but I never see any of this stuff.
I get the same thing on the show. Yeah. I get people that are on the show that don't know I'm posting things. Like, I'll get messages from like Adam or from other people saying like, have you seen this? I'm like, yes, we did a news burst about it. It's like, the hell, Facebook.
I don't know what the answer is. We need to bring back MySpace or something, because I feel like in those days it was just, if you really wanted to stay up on something, you have to stay up on it. And then it's scary when people who are interested in what you're doing, they want to know what's going on with the Full Force or whatever. If they're not hearing about it, it's unfortunate. And
it's kind of pointless too, really.
Yeah, right? Like it's frustrating to put in all this work and then you put out a podcast and 3 people can hear it, but there are like hundreds more who want to hear it.
There are at least 3 other people.
There are millions who want to hear it.
There are at least 3 other people that want to hear it, yeah.
But I'm sure, and everyone listening experiences the same thing, but if you do like something, you really do have to just constantly keep checking. And I try and be as proactive as I can, and I know you are with your stuff, and it's hard. I mean, there was a time when you could put up something and you could easily share it online. But like Rental Patient is a great example. Put out that video and a lot of people didn't see it. And so I was on tour and I was saying, oh, there's a video out for this. And they said, what? I didn't know that. Like people would comment on the song after. And, I don't ever expect people to know everything I'm doing all the time. But when people want to know, it's unfortunate. So I feel like Facebook's just not the best place to share stuff these days.
It's not really, yeah.
No, and YouTube, unless you're really making those like millions, you're getting the millions of hits that all these YouTube influencers are doing. It's everybody else is sort of pushed down into this really, really obscure little pool. So it's hard to see everything. And I think we're missing a lot of cool stuff that way.
Agreed, yeah. I think that a lot of the kind of influencers have a lot of backing too already. Like they'll go into it with like, companies behind them and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of all of a sudden like they're influencers because they've got the capital to kind of push it. And I feel the same way. I feel if you're just coming at it from the ground up, unless you've been doing it for like, I don't know, 10 years or something, then, you've really got to work hard to actually get any kind of distance in that reach. But anyway, let's not end on a sad note.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know what? It's not sad. It's just we just have to find new ways to get it out there. And I've been DIY since I started and independent, and I just like doing that. It just sort of forces me to just keep working harder and finding new ways to get stuff out there. And I like that. And I obviously appreciate any support that anyone gives me, and that just helps me just do better work and more of it. So that's always appreciated. Yeah.
Thank you for twisting that. Good man. Well, that brings us to the end of the interview. Thank you so much for joining me to chat about the new album, Rhyme Your Business. Where can people buy it, listen to it, support you, etc.?
Oh, yeah. Well, propsdepartment.bandcamp.com. That's my Bandcamp page. But if you just type in Wordburglar and Rhyme Your Business, you'll find it. I'm on every music platform that you can find your music on, and please check it out. I do a podcast as well called Weekend at Bergie's, and that's on iTunes and every other podcast thing. And just type it Wordburglar into your pants computer, and you'll be able to find me.
Awesome.
And thank you for continuing to keep us all posted, because I am a fan of your podcast and you and G.I. Joe. So it's great that, I always tell you this, but you're keeping it going. The fans are keeping it going, and just hearing whatever scraps of news that we can find out about what's happening in the world of Hasbro and the stuff we love. It's great. So I appreciate all that, and just keeping these fun stories alive. I love hearing about new other artists and creators doing different stuff with that circles all of our interests. So it's very cool.
I will pay you via PayPal later for that one. No, thank you so much,
man,
dude.
It's all honest.
It's all love.
It's all love.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure once again. We'll have to have you back on again soon, just for the sake of it.
Anytime. Well, I think we still got to do an Inhumanoids episode. I think we keep talking about that.
Well, the Inhumanoids episode's already happened. This is perfect.
I didn't listen to it because I wasn't invited.
Oh, dude. I'm so sorry.
No, I actually am way behind on all my podcasts, so no, it's all good. But
we're gonna have to do an addendum to the Inhumanoids episode.
It's all good. I'll do a rap song about it. So
hells yeah. Anyway, that's it for this installment of the Full Force News Burst. Thank you to my wonderful guest Wordburglar. See you next time, and as always, full burgs. I mean force.
Full force.
Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of these platforms with feedback, questions, or to say, who do you think you are? A serious operation now? No, not even close. Look out for more of these news bursts that we are posting on the Facebook page from now on. Full Force.